Peace, light, and love. First of all, a miracle has occurred in my neighborhood. Every Saturday, there used to be children from the synagogue playing wildly. And we spoke several times to these people, and they just refused to listen. Finally, they listened. I realized I learned an important lesson. With anger, you can never achieve anything. Anger is a bad trait. It also says that in Judaism that anger is the worst trait. And I realized that um, now I listen to them pray. It's pleasant. But every Saturday there were kids playing here soccer. And I told their parents, you can't just do that anymore. It would be screaming. It would be like a football stadium in the entrance to the building. So, having said that, I want to talk about Candace Owens' very, very courageous exposure of George Floyd. I've put so many videos of Martin Luther King's speech, and I feel so stupid. But it's good to feel stupid. People who never feel stupid are stupid. This is one law of life I've also learned. So the first law, very important, I learned this week is anger doesn't get you to good places. It only gets you to worse places. When you're dealing with human beings or anything actually. Second thing I learned, it's okay to feel stupid. It's okay to admit you made a mistake. And I think a lot of people have a difficult time admitting they made a mistake. That's called the ego. So I'm feeling finally I'm making progress in overcoming ego. And what Candace Owens has to say is very brave. She goes against everybody in this entire world. I think there's not been an island, a remote island, that hasn't had a demonstration for George Floyd. And that shows you a very important phenomena in social psychology. People are copycats. They do not think for themselves. Now, was it right to execute any human being, an animal? If it was a cat, if it was a mouse, it would have been horrifying to watch a video of somebody being squashed to death and not allowed to breathe. It's horrible. Having said that, however, it's also horrible to take a reverend like Al Sharpton, who incited for anti-Semitism and told to murder Jews because of a car accident in which a Hasidic Jew drove into a small African American child and it killed her. It was a car accident, as far as I understood. Was it intentional? I don't think anything in Judaism tells you to run over people. And they made it into a race war. And that shows you. Now, there's a saying I really love in the New Testament because I believe in learning from every source of wisdom. And it doesn't negate the fact that I have a Jewish identity. It's okay. Jesus was a Jew. We're all the same, whether Christian, Jewish, Muslim. It's just made up construct. The spiritual following of a certain prophet or person or teachings. But there's some very, very wise words in the New Testament that I really love. And one of them is, you can tell a tree by its fruit, which means actually that you can tell a person by their deeds. Now, I've seen Al Sharpton speak against Jews, speak against white people, speak against so many things and incite hatred and violence in that way, because words have meaning. And when you hate someone with words, it leads to deeds. And the riots were not friendly. And they were really not necessary in protesting violence. You can't fight violence with violence. Martin Luther King said it. It sounds simple, but most people don't get it. Most people prefer violence. And it doesn't make sense because anger will not bring you peace. Anger will not bring you to good places. I've learned this, and I wish so many people would learn this. Another matter I want to deal with is George Floyd's family. Somebody wrote in comments to Candace Owen. Nobody knows him like his family. I'm sorry. These people have every agenda. They have such an agenda to make him look like a hero. Of course they're not going to say he was a drug addict and he's set in jail. What family would? But what family member can actually come and say, what a great loss, when the man sat in prison numerous times? I mean, his son had a lawyer dictate to him a speech. But if you ask the son, if the son could have been honest, if he had nothing to gain by making the speech of what a great father he would have said, he wasn't around, he was in prison in my formative years. I mean, this is a young guy, and his father said 5 years in prison. That means that 5 years, that young man did not have a father. And not only didn't he have a father, but instead of being a role model for his children, instead of saying, hey, I have children now, I have to be a better person. I can't just rob, I can't just go into houses and use guns and rob innocent people. Instead of being a role model for his children, he robbed, he broke into a pregnant woman's house with other people, and he ended up serving time 5 years and not being there for his children. I don't know how many sets of children he's had, but um, all I know is he hasn't been around. So, and the niece that says he was such a great uncle, I mean, I don't really have a relationship with any of my uncles. Um, I have one. My late mother had one brother. No contact with him because I don't serve a need. My family is highly capitalistic. This is the religion of the family. Money is the religion. If you can get money out of you, if you're not money making like them, they have no interest in meeting you. They only want to meet people that are big money makers because money is what matters. And it has nothing to do with Judaism. It's just the religion of capitalism. And when it comes to inheritance, that's where the religion is being completely used. The principle of this religion is grab the money and disconnect from people so they don't sue you. And they can't sue you because in inheritance, it's very hard to prove things after you influence an elderly sick person to give you most of their money and property. It's very hard to prove things. So this is the religion of my family. Did they rob? Did they enter? Did I have an uncle who went into a house with a gun and threatened a pregnant woman and set in prison for it? No. But if I did, I definitely wouldn't praise him. But what do you get out of praising George Floyd? What does his family get out of praising him? Lots and lots and lots and lots of money, fame and money. He's a big, all those T-shirts with his image. Um, I mean, the man is a money-making scheme. He's making more money with his death than he could ever even dream of with his robberies. And his niece, she's going to be famous. All these people, the Floyd family name is like the Kennedys. Seriously, it's more. It's more, as John Lennon said and was attacked for it. John Lennon of the Beatles said, we're more famous than Jesus. George Floyd is more famous than Jesus at this point. I don't think Christianity is as widespread as George Floyd. And he's been compared to Jesus. I mean, this one woman, African American representative, she actually said, God, God looked for a messenger and he found George Floyd. I don't know what she knows about the Bible, but in the Bible, what I understand, and I'm really far from being a scholar, a biblical scholar, but I think I got the idea that in the Bible, you can't just send anybody to carry a message. I mean, I know that priests and the big temple had to be very pure people, and still to this days, various religious tasks are done by people that lead a very clean, meaning a very pure life, that dedicate themselves to prayer and teachings um, of so-called God, whatever, but biblical studies, Torah studies, in the case of Judaism. So the roles I know from Judaism, you have to be a pure person. The reality, of course, is different. There's a lot of corruption in all religious groups, and the more strict they are, the more corruption there will be, because people cannot be held to very, very high standards because they're going to fall. But having said that, there's a difference between falling occasionally or one time or occasionally into numerous times, as Candace candidly said, and will be attacked for it. As far as family members knowing their family member, he was taking hard drugs. I'm not talking about smoking pot. I'm talking about hard drugs. As far as I know, that's not behavior that leads to good places. As far as I know, that leads to behavior where you run down. Talking about car accidents, you can injure people when you're driving under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Having said that, you can commit crimes because of hard drugs, because hard drugs take away your ability to make judgments. Um, and it's a very bad example for your children because drugs are highly addictive. The hard drugs are highly addictive and ruin people's lives. The reason so many people are in prison is because of is connected to the drug negative cycle of taking hard drugs. And if you ask me, the difference between African Americans in America and Jews in America is definitely doing hard drugs. I understand that they've been through the worst trauma people can undergo. They've been humiliated, lynched, still discriminated against because of the color of your skin. And while a person that is Jewish can somehow, some people that are Jewish can hide being Jewish somehow, or it doesn't stick out. Being African American, skin color is hard to hide. And if you have racist views, you have people with racist views around you, you're going to be discriminated against. And it is a really difficult reality. However, the popularity of doing hard drugs in the African community and the way of making money that way and to escape poverty is just a negative cycle because they might escape poverty temporarily, but they enter a life of crime permanently, can I say? A lot of people end up doing a lot of prison sentences, a long prison sentence, being disconnected from their children, and their children have to grow up with only one parent providing for them, and they know that their other parent is in prison. They know it. So how can George Floyd's family praise him? Don't they have children they want to raise differently? Do they want their children to do drugs? Do they want children to break into homes and rob people? Not because of skin color and not because what will people say? And this is where I differ. I don't agree with Candace Owens. I don't think people should behave in order to maintain the image of African American community. They should behave so their children have a positive role model, and their nieces and their nephews, because it's a whole cycle. So it must be hard not to be an African American only, but also to have an uncle who you knew was doing hard drugs, and then to have everybody ignore that. Everybody ignore the bull in the china shop. Everybody around George Floyd knew he was doing drugs. Everybody knew he was in prison instead of being with his children. Yes, he found Jesus from time to time, just the way people in Israel, we have criminals and all this and put a yarmulke and they're saints. They take drugs, they run over children, or, they have car accidents or they commit crimes and then they murder their wives and all of a sudden they find religion. And that's ugly. And the way certain reverends like Al Sharpton are supposed to represent God, God doesn't need representatives that preach for hate. I'm sorry, but Jesus, if he could, he would tap him on the shoulder and say, "Hey, Al." That's how I feel. I'm not representing Jesus, but I feel I need to cry out to expose this hypocrisy of priests, of people of religion, even speaking against Donald Trump, who's probably, you can't find somebody who hates him more than me. You can't find somebody who not hates, that's a strong word. I do not like this person as far as the media present, what I see in the media, I don't know it personally. But having said that, if you're a man of God, you don't get around and speak against somebody holding a Bible or the hypocrisy as if the Bible is more important than a human being. The Bible is supposed to be a path into being a better person. It's not supposed to be God itself. And if you want to talk against humiliating people by humiliating people, it contradicts. So, yes, he makes mistakes. He's a person with many flaws, and I would never ever imagine him as a leader. However, to get all these priests around and to speak about him instead of speaking about serious matters in the African American community, such as children growing up without fathers, children growing up with fathers in prisons, and not only because of racism, but because of their choices, their bad choices they make, because they have such a difficult life in America, because America is embracing the religion of capitalism, and that means that only money matters. So it's not Black Lives Matter, it's human life is more important than money. If you could have a movement like that, you would make a revolution. And the black and white thing is, I don't understand it. It's just the color of his skin. It's pigment. That's the only difference as far as I'm concerned. And making people come together because of skin color, actually having people come together for any other reason than a shared set of values is ridiculous for me. That's why I don't get the LGBT community. I mean, people that have um, other tendencies than the mainstream have various ideologies, political ideologies. They're not one community. They don't share anything except one thing, which is they prefer their own gender or they are transgenders or whatever. I don't get coming together as a community and supposedly sharing, like thinking the same. No, I don't get the idea of actually thinking the same as somebody else just because everybody says something. I have to believe it. Actually, I'm the opposite. I'm always questioning what the majority says because there's a tendency of human beings to copy, to be parents. We say copycats, to just repeat like those slogans. I would never. I was in three different protests against violence towards women, violence towards dogs and animals, and violence towards Ethiopians, Jews. And all of them, except the Ethiopians that didn't repeat slogans, the repeating of slogans is strong, but it's also not the way I want to do things. I prefer an intelligent discussion of the ideas and looking at why things are the way they are. So I won't get into those issues, but I definitely think that George Floyd should, the flag of George Floyd should be taken down, and the flag shouldn't be Black Lives Matter, which is a political movement with a very ugly agenda. Um, I think the slogan should be definitely um, all lives matter and treating everyone the way you want to be treated. You wouldn't want to be stepped on like a cockroach. You wouldn't want to be stepped on and humiliated in public. And especially if that person took drugs, you have to be the better person. That's what that is the best thing I've ever learned, actually, this slogan. You have to be the better person. Be the better person. Can you imagine if people repeated that? But repeating slogans is very easy. Living a life, living a life where you seek justice and you treat people the way you want to be treated is a struggle because human beings are not perfect. We have a lot of imperfections, and this is where religion could come in and give us a better path. Had religion not been very, very close twin of capitalism, why do I have to pay a salary for someone to teach me the Bible? Why do people, okay, they need to make a living, okay, but there's a difference between making a living and becoming very wealthy. And some of these religious institutions, I've heard in America, it's unbelievable how much money these churches have, how much property, and it's certainly true in the ultra-Orthodox world where people just live like luxury lifestyles. And I don't think a person that's supposed to teach me how to live a better life and how to become a better person can be a wealthy person. And again, I quote the New Testament. Um, it's easier for a camel to go through the needle of an eye than a rich person to get into heaven. And that means, whether you believe in heaven or hell or whatever, that wealth comes with a lot of choices where people fail. A lot of wealthy people fail and they fall into the trap of greed instead of using their wealth to make this a better place, to help people that are in need, to support programs for drug addicts, to stop being drug addicts, instead of supporting single mothers, instead of supporting people that have difficulties in society, they invest in themselves, um, going on ski trips, doing various expensive luxury sports, and having beautiful clothes, investing in jewelry, investing in real estate, having huge apartments or huge houses. And for me, it contradicts. I think being meek is the center, the very heart of being a kind and better person. Because once you live a life where you live a luxury life where you can buy everything you want and you can get everything you want like a snap of a finger, your compassion towards those who don't have this lifestyle just disappears, and you don't understand what it's like to be poor in this world. And there are many more poor people in this world than wealthy, which means you have no compassion for so many people. Being wealthy doesn't mean you don't have compassion, but it's very easy to fall into the trap of ego. It's very easy to be only with other wealthy people. And this is what I've seen in the wealthy country I've lived in, that people, well, it makes sense. If you own a lot of property, you don't have anything in common with somebody who struggles to even pay the rent. And that means that you are in a very segregated place. And when we are very segregated, we're not going to understand each other. And not understanding is not having compassion, is not being able to relate to someone else. And that's where the ego grows and grows and grows, and the religion of capitalism grows. I'm not speaking of communism as an alternative that I would like to see, but there must be something in the middle. There must be somewhere where, some system where having money is not the only thing that matters. And on the other hand, controlling others too much is also not the goal, so as was in communist countries. So peace, light, and love. And I urge anyone who can see this, if you have something to say, I would love to hear a comment. But let's get off the George Floyd hero worshipping, and let's try to be our own heroes. Let's try to cultivate in us traits of a hero, which are striving to be a better version of yourself and be the better person. If you encounter a person that harms you, try to be the better person, not the worst person. Peace, light, and love.